Today, on episode number 304 of the Amplify Your Awesome Podcast, you're going to hear the full story from Wendy Guth, our second launch partner for season 5, and we're going to learn her story about going from corporate events to transformational travel coach and what she's working on now that I cannot wait for you to find out about on this episode. Enjoy, my friends. Have you ever felt like there was something missing in your business? Something holding you back from the success you're seeking? If so, you are not alone. For nearly 20 years, that's exactly how I felt as a business owner. It wasn't until I discovered human design that it all became clear. And it turns out that I was the missing piece in my own business. Join me on this journey of discovering the real me and hear stories from other business owners building businesses around all of their awesomeness. I'm Yong, Pratt, and it's time, my friend, to amplify your awesome. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Amplify Your Awesome podcast. I cannot wait to dive into this interview with today's guest. Wendy Guth is definitely no stranger to being on the podcast. We've chatted several times here on the podcast. And today, I cannot wait to dive into everything that she's doing now because she's made some big pivots. But let me back up a little bit and tell you more about Wendy so you have a good sense of what we're going to dive into today. So Wendy started off in the entrepreneurial space as a corporate meeting planner. She is known by one and all as Rebel on the Go, and she helps women create experiences where they can be on the go. And she's leaning into lots of amazing new opportunities. And I am just so excited whenever we chat. It's always so much fun. So Wendy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be back. And yes, actually, I know that our conversations always leave me so incredibly energized and excited, and my mind is racing. So I'm excited. I'm ready for that today.
Amazing. And I totally feel the same. Whenever we get off a conversation, there's always more ideas to think about and to chew and to really savor. So I'm excited for what this interview is going to bring about. So I want to kind of go back to the beginning, Wendy. Can you tell us how you started in this world of entrepreneurship and kind of where it's led you to today?
Sure. So about 4.5 years ago, let me back up even further. So I spent 30 years in the mostly nonprofit corporate world doing live events. And then in 2016, I lost my job. And it was one of those, it turned out that it was obvious, it was a silver lining. At the same time, I had another major pivot in that I had met my husband, and we had a long distance relationship, all this kind of things that actually came together. The summer of 2016, I spent the summer in Guam with the kids and my now husband. And it was the most transformational experience. And here I was, unemployed. Never had been that way in my adult life. And actually probably since I was 12. My father was an entrepreneur too, so he put me to work. Anyway, so I came across the online space, and I would be waking up at 3 a.m. Guam time to listen to webinars back in the U.S. And it really just started coalescing that I wanted to do something travel related. That's always been my passion. And I also wanted it to be more. And so the whole concept for me of transformational travel, of being the rebel on the go, was really born that summer. So that's pretty much my backstory. And then spent 2.5 years after Guam, in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, on the military base, where I ran my business. Very much, it was 100% online through social media, which was actually, it ended up being a wonderful opportunity for me to really learn how to do that.
I
So,
love
and
so
then,
many things about this story, Wendy. Holy smokes. I first of all want to say, the fact that you turned an unfortunate opportunity or an unfortunate circumstance
Mhm,
of losing your job into
mhm,
something more and being able to be witness to what it's evolved into. I just want to give
mhm.
you kudos for that, because I think so many
Oh,
people right now are probably
yeah.
dealing with similar circumstances. They may
Yes.
have lost
Yes.
their job. They
Yes.
may be
Yeah.
underemployed, not working as much as they wanted, thinking, well,
Yeah.
what do I do next? So if that is
Yeah.
you, keep listening, because Wendy is such a good example of how you can turn those negative circumstances, even though they feel hard and they feel like it's going to
Hmm.
be forever. She's been able
Right.
to pivot so many times so beautifully and just say, you know what? Well, that doesn't work quite like I planned, so I can keep pivoting. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to really highlight that, because I think so many people right now can relate to this particular circumstance.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I completely agree. I look at where the hospitality, the meetings, the travel industry is today, and it breaks my heart. It just absolutely breaks my heart to see how many people are, as you said, either unemployed, underemployed, and there are opportunities out there. It's really a matter of exploring and realizing that it's possible to transfer skills from one area to another. And yeah, being an entrepreneur, it's hard work. I don't have to tell you that. It's hard work, but there's a tremendous amount of joy that can come from it.
Yes,
So
so true. And being able to start your own business, if that's something that's in the back of your mind, is such a
mhm.
gift. And like you said, it comes with its own set of challenges. But at the same
Yes.
time, being able to have the freedom to pivot and do one thing today and something tomorrow,
Hmm.
that is such an incredible opportunity. And the
Hmm.
availability of tools to help us build these businesses remotely wherever we
Yes.
want to live, I think,
Yes.
as sad as the whole situation is right now, like, that's the biggest gift I think the situation has shed a light on, is that, you know what? We're not tied to location. We have these
Yeah.
devices. We have the ability. We have the internet that allows us to connect with people across the globe. And that is exactly what you do.
Yes.
Because I want to dive into what you're doing now, because I know as
Hmm.
you've pivoted out of corporate and you're really leaning into this
Hmm.
rebel on the go, it's taken many forms. And I know there's some new things on the
Yes.
horizon.
Yes. 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 Which I'm super excited about. Yes. So, March 2020 will go down in my own personal history. We actually returned from our 2.5 years in Guantanamo Bay right in time for a pandemic. And the joke was always, Gitmo is a closed base, and here we come back to a closed country, a closed world. Yeah, we lived in a hotel for 2 months before moving into our home. I mean, it was crazy. And I, as someone who, I'm an adventurous, rebellious person, and I was so excited about having the freedom to travel and to do things. And all of a sudden I come back and all of my trips are canceled. Okay. And let's face it, it wasn't just my trips, all of my clients, every one of them. And I spent months, and to be honest, I'm still kind of unwinding people's vacations. And it is truly, I mean, I will say I was a bit depressed. It was difficult to function. And all of a sudden I started really looking at what were the processes and systems that I had used for my clients, how for travel, and how can I apply that first to myself, and then now for clients, how can we apply that to really get rid of the stress, get rid of the anxiety and the isolation and all of these feelings that are here now. And I think to some extent, especially for people who are used to going and doing, it's really hard. Well, it's hard for everyone. And then to really focus in on how do we relax? How do we have some level of personal control and to hopefully bring joy and in our lives and to flourish? So yeah, that's actually what I started to do when I realized that I can't just sit in bed. I can't just sit and watch news all day. Oh gosh. Yeah, we left the hotel, the televisions kind of disappeared, thankfully. But yeah, so it was very exciting. And I also realized that travel as we know it is, well, I don't have a crystal ball, but travel as we know it to a large extent is gone. And we don't know when it will return. So from that perspective, I really started looking at, oh, wait, oh, did I just disappear? Oh no, maybe not. I started looking at what could I do? What could I share beyond travel? And so the whole concept of like transformational coaching had always been there. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue really a deeper understanding and a deeper education in coaching. So I enrolled in a wonderful program called Journey, and that goes for ICF accreditation and certification, and really started digging into life coaching and really, what are my core values and how do I translate that into creating programs and coaching experiences for women that really ultimately lead them to a life that they want and a life that allows them to flourish. So, wow, I'm long-winded, aren't I?
And I think, again, this is such a great example of turning something that could have been a really, bad situation and not recovering from that, and now moving into something that is
Right.
like I haven't seen you this excited for so long to see this transformation just in you from the outside,
Yeah.
saying, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, because in the travel industry, it's been hit so hard, and that was your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back
Yes.
to that moment when you said you were depressed, and then there was this bit of an epiphany and this transformation. Can you talk us through how you were able to dig yourself out of that depressive state into the place you are today?
Sure. And I will tell you that one of the absolute key things was the whole concept of venturing under your own power. That is what really, all of a sudden, that had really sunk into me, that is actually a core value. That, and what I mean by that is, under my own power could be anything from, we started bike riding. How socially distanced could that be? And we started getting out and bike riding as soon as we could, and the weather allowed, and actually our kayaks arrived. We started kayaking again. I started a micro habit challenge of having a morning constitutional, walking the dog. And also under my own power was the thoughts I put in my head, and realizing I am able to control not watching television or limiting it to HGTV, which always makes me super happy. But things along those lines are within my power. And when I really sunk into that, everything sort of just blossomed. And also, I started really looking at, and it helped through this coaching process or this coaching course, because these are the things you do, but really digging in to looking at my values and how do they align with my passions and interests. And that is something that I love working with clients, because sometimes, it just doesn't always jive, which can ultimately cause, surprisingly enough, or maybe not surprising, but can really work on the lack of control and the inability to feel joy if you're doing something that you truly don't want to do and you haven't worked through the negotiations to do that, then it's not always a good thing. And under these circumstances, I think with the fact that we are still to a good extent limited to what we can do and where we can go, I think that having this control in our life is in whatever we can control. And there's a lot of things we can't, and we have to accept that. But I just think that those are, also I turned a lot to really trying to connect. And I know we had a great conversation, I think it was early summer. And it's connecting with people in the online space. I have a Facebook group who I love connecting with. We actually have done some micro habit challenges in there. Again, just connection. I will say I'm very, very fortunate that we have a nice backyard. And so I can actually connect with friends in a very, easy way. And that could be biz buddies, personal friends, those sorts of things. And self-care, and again, I dove into the self-care as early as I could. As soon as the state of Maryland said I could have a massage, I was on that table the next day. But I just realized that there are things like that, and whatever that is. And sometimes it's just taking a moment and breathing deeply. That sort of thing. Okay. And I could keep going on and on forever, but I will end with, I've also really embraced gratitude. And also looking forward to celebrations. That is the thing I probably miss the most, because especially celebrations are all about connection with me. I don't celebrate usually by myself. So I definitely miss that, and working on ways that you can do it, whether it's, in a Zoom room or in a Skype call or in a Facebook group. I think those are really important things. So again, wow, you wind me up and I just...
No, this is so great, because I think you touch on so many good points, particularly that we ourselves have more power to change our circumstances than we sometimes believe. Because I think, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, it's really easy to let all those messages of negativity and what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and those shoulds and coulds and wouldas, sometimes those things kind of suppress us, and they kind of get us to hide within ourselves. And that's not why we were put on this planet. We were put on this planet to rise and to shine and to share these gifts. And I so love that you had all these little micro habits that you were working on, because when we start with those small things, sometimes those little shifts is all it takes to help us build momentum in the right direction. So thank you so much for sharing that story. So good.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and there's no more truth to that. And one thing I found is really interesting is just how our brains function. And one of the things, we are actually wired to focus on negativity over happiness. And so we do actually, even though that's what brings us joy, that's what brings us good health and long life and all of that, we actually have to work a little bit harder to get to that than we would kind of like wallowing, which, so.
It's so fascinating, and it's true. We're wired to think about the negative, to think about the scarcity, to the lack. And when we can shift from that and do things under our own power, I think those are the moments that really define who we are, because we take these circumstances and we just say, you know what, no more. I'm done. I'm drawing the line in the sand. And from this moment on, these are the things I'm going to focus on, because I have control. We cannot control what the government does. We cannot control what the world outside of us does, what travel does, but we can control how we react to those circumstances, and focusing on things like gratitude and joy and those little tiny moments that we can really, really savor and enjoy. Like your walks with Pebbles. I mean, I love seeing you on video. You guys are just out walking, saying hi to the neighbors. Cars are going by.
Exactly.
And I just love that, because Yes, because it allows us to connect with others. And the fact that you're in your group saying, you know what, I'm doing this today. Who wants to join me? Just that little invitation sometimes is all we need to say, oh, sure, I can commit to 5 minutes. I can commit to 10 minutes. And before we know it, our mindset shifts, our physiology shifts, everything within us shifts, and it's reaching this higher level of vibration. And I love that moment.
Actually, exactly. And that's really, and I think that, well, we could get into a little bit of woo-woo with that, but yes, it's actually upping our vibration, and then it expands exponentially, which is so, they say that what you feel and what you think and what you focus on expands. Well, imagine just turning that to just positive and, experiences or moments that you want just to grow, and just focus in on just, I just love the whole concept of expansion, the positive.
Yes. So let me ask you this now. So we're talking about being positive and bringing good vibes and connecting with other people. How are you right now, or how have you helped your clients in the past 4 or 5 months if they've had to change their travel plans? Like, how have you helped them shift in the content that you're putting out into the world?
Sure. Well, and then, it started, it ran from, I think, April until August. I did a social media series called How Wendy Dreams. And I have to say that it was cathartic for me to do these posts that talked about whether it was an aspirational of I want to go on an African safari, or, it was one of the most popular was I love the HGTV show Home Time. Or Hometown, sorry. And it's just reflecting on whatever I was dreaming or thinking about any particular day. So I found that the response was actually fantastic, because it allowed people to view what was in my head, and it allowed them to dream on their own. And that I was really excited to see. And then I just got to the point where I was like, it's time. It's time to move on. It's time to focus more on, not to stop dreaming, but take the dreams to the next step. And let's work on more goal setting. And that's been a really big thing as well. And sometimes it's really hard to look at what are your goals right now. But having goals allows the exploration of values, which again is one of those things that I see as being so important. And it also, our bodies get excited when they're thinking ahead. So a lot of the travel has pivoted from, I had to cancel, to, okay, let's look ahead. And I've been I will admit, I've been realistic that, staying away from 2020 for travel. I mean, I'm supposed to travel on my first trip next week. And I found out at the last minute that I actually need a COVID test from Maryland to go to New Mexico. Not really what I was, I'm like, what? So scrambling to try to figure out how to do that. So there's, so I actually have really focused more on later part of 2021, even looking at 2022, 2023. What do we want to celebrate? What do we want to dream about? And planning and setting goals farther ahead actually is also really good for our systems. We like that. Our brains like that. So that's really where I've just, again, I try to stay realistic as well as positive. I'm definitely not a Pollyanna. And or at least I don't consider myself to be one. But so it's definitely really looking ahead as best that people can. And I also have created Savor. And really what the starting piece is a 6-day solution, I say, to turn fear, uncertainty, and isolation into relaxation, personal control, and joy. Wow, that was such a mouthful. But really, it's designed, it's got daily prompts, bite-sized activities that really allow women to start to get to know themselves and really dive into, the points that I've already talked about with comfort zones and passions and, connections. And I'm excited. The response has been really, really good. And that rolls into a journaling experience, which really is focusing on micro excursions. And it's like getting out. And I know that I've done a few road trips this summer. The first one was a little bit, we built a toilet, like a little, porta potty in our minivan until I realized, wow, we can stop at Targets on the road. And I know Targets, So anyway, but we've done a few road trips. I've tested a few hotel chains. I'll give a shout out to Hilton. I think they're doing a fabulous job in terms of, making me feel safe and secure and COVID free. But anyway, but mini excursions can also be taking a walk in your neighborhood, even just stepping outside your door, breathing in air. And, hopefully, were you impacted by the fires?
It's been smoky on and off here. It's a little hazy today. So it's been challenging on some days to even take these outside excursions because the smoke is so oppressive.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, but, and there's also things just even, I always say in your own home, you can't step out of your comfort zone until you're comfortable in your zone. And generally your zone is, finding a sanctuary. I was saying before we went live that normally I have a cute little nook with a really comfy chair in my bedroom. And that's kind of my comfort zone or my bathtub. But,
yes.
and there are places, I'll admit that in Guantanamo Bay, our housing didn't allow for a lot of comfort zones. I created my own little sanctuary in a closet, and it wasn't like it was a big closet, but I was able to sit down. I was able to shut a door. I was able to have just a few comfortable things. So there are ways of creating the spaces. I think sometimes it just takes a little creativity and sometimes a little bit of a push. So, yeah.
Yes, and I love that it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but these little tiny nooks, these little tiny adventures, I love that because I think we sometimes get wrapped up in the notion of what we see on HGTV, like, oh, total house transformation and this and that. And when we take a step back and we say, oh,
right.
It doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
That's a really fun moment to decide. And Wendy, I have to say that you're such a great example of turning the negative into the positive in your business life and to have created this business that is so aligned with your values. And you've been digging into that so much lately. And that is shining through from your social media series about how Wendy dreams. It was so fun to see all those each day and say, oh, I want to do that too. And just being able to say, you know what, she's putting out these beautiful pieces. I can relate. We're getting other people to connect with us. And that's what this time in history is about that connection.
Yeah.
How do we create these pieces that allow other people to say, oh, I see myself in that. And that is how we build those amazing connections. So Wendy, I want to make sure that people can find out more about this Savor experience because I think it sounds so dreamy and it sounds so amazing. Where can they go to find out more information?
Oh, so it is, let's see. Well, the easiest place is, what is it? HTTPS I don't know why we have to say that, but we have to say that now. /www.rebelonthegotravel.com/savor. And savor is spelled the English way, SAVOUR. Yes.
Amazing. And I will definitely put all of that in today's show notes.
Right.
People can look directly to you because I think this is an opportunity for lots of us, lots of women who are busy, who are going, who've had to really face some challenges recently and had to make pivots of our own. But to take a step back and say, okay, what are the things that I can savor and how can Wendy, with all her vast experience, guide me to do that? So thank you so much for putting together such an incredible opportunity.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I absolutely adore your series and everything that you've done for entrepreneurs, for small business owners, brick and mortar to the online space. You have a wonderful, wonderful voice that we also need to hear desperately.
Oh, you are so sweet. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for saying yes to being here on the podcast. I know that this episode is going to resonate with so many people right now who are facing challenges, and you're just this shining example of how you can pivot and overcome and, rise above. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So what did you think? Wendy and I always have the best conversations, and I walk away with so many ideas, and I hope you did too. I would love for you to come on over to yongpratt.com/304 and let me know your biggest takeaway from my interview today with Wendy. Now, make sure you are subscribed and you stick around, because next week on the podcast, I'm going to share the full-length interview from Nicole Thompson, who literally went from corporate dropout to side hustle igniter. And there's something magic that happens on the call that demonstrates in such great timing everything that she teaches her students and her clients to do and have success with. So I cannot wait for you to tune into that episode. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Amplify Your Awesome podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any tips, tricks, or secrets on building a business based around your awesome. Hey, and while you're there, leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you think of the show. And until next time, my friends, go out there today and amplify your awesome.